Great to see you again, Marissa. How are you today?
I'm great, Nicole. It's great to see you as well.
Awesome. So I think we're actually going to kick off with a video. So let's run that video and then we'll get our chat started after that.
Bring it in! Today, nothing else matters. As long as those beside you and those behind you know that you got their back. Who got my back?
I got your back.
Who got my back?
I got your back.
Who got my back?
I got your back.
Who got my back?
We got your back.
Who got my back?
We got your back.
Who got my back?
We got your back. Who got my back? We got your back. Who got my back? We got your back.
Who got my back?
Who got my back?
We got your back.
Who got my back?
We got your back. Who got our back?
We got your back. Who has my back? Who got my back? We got your back. Who got my back? We got your back. Know this, as long as we got each other, we can't be broken. So I ask you, who got my back?
Okay, I have to say that is a pretty awesome way to start a session. I'm wondering if I can borrow that to kick off all my Zoom meetings moving
I got
forward.
your back, man. I got your back. I got your back, Nicole.
Awesome. But in all seriousness, 2021 has been a great year for the NFL. It has been an incredibly exciting season, record-breaking ratings, and in fact, Ad Age named NFL the 2021 Marketer of the Year. So congrats on that. Talk to me a little about what you think fueled that recognition for the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, it's been incredible, and what a time to join the NFL. I mean, definitely the momentum is growing and is there. I will tell you, the season has been incredible. I mean, if you've been watching any of the games, they are all, they come down to the wire. It's unpredictable. And so kind of that hype and the spirit of the game is back. And I think post-COVID, people were longing for that, right? Longing for the excitement of the game. But I think much more than that, the recognition by a Marketer of the Year has been phenomenal. It's wonderful. I think it's a testament to the work that Tim Ellis, our CMO, started 3 years ago. But I will tell you, I think for us, it was a huge surprise because to a certain extent, I feel we're just getting started. There's so much that we need to do. But there's three things that I think drove the recognition and hopefully will drive what we're doing in the future. The first was clearly continuing to acknowledge what the game means for the fan, right? The hype, the excitement, the joy of watching the game and continuing. But I think more importantly, it's starting to really humanize the league and modernize the league. And if you saw that spot, our kickoff spot, that was an ode to our fans, right? And to the humanity that the game brings, because every time they come to a game, they got that team's back, right? They have the team's back. And so it's showing that togetherness and that humanity. And I think just bringing in that inclusion, diversity, and youthfulness, I think it's really resonating. And so I think that was probably some of the reasons. But like I said, I think we have a long way to go, a lot to still do to elevate the game. So it's great to be starting on a high note for sure.
Yeah, that's great. You mentioned humanizing the game, and I know starting back several years ago when Tim came on, there's been this helmets off strategy where you really lean in and place more emphasis on the player personalities. Now, at the same time, I have to believe that forces you maybe to relinquish a little bit of control of the brand or the messaging. How do you approach that? And what advice do you have for other marketers in the audience who are also leaning more heavily, as we just heard in the panel before us, into influencers and personalities?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, when you look at what the league is and what the league represents, it's not just this league, non-entity. It really is a family of so many different people, right? Yes, it is the players and the coaches and officials, but it is the fans. It is the communities that these teams represent. There's so much to that. And, as a marketer, everyone's always a little bit, hesitant to relinquish the brand, a little bit afraid to relinquish that. But I don't think you can humanize your brand until you do so, because it truly is the fan experience or the player experience, the experience of those people that make up the league, that I think needs to come out. And when you truly kind of let them be in the driver's seat of the narrative, it changes that narrative. I think the word authenticity, being authentic, has become such a cliche in our industry. So I won't use the term, but I do think that the more the human side and the people who truly experience the brand control the narrative, the better it is to build it. We as the brand has to curate all those awesome stories, so that it can be a cohesive, powerful story. But I think we do have to relinquish a little bit for them to form it, for sure.
Yeah. When we chatted last time, you were also talking about how that strategy of the more of the off the field and the player personalities also allows you to sort of extend the season, right? That you used to live by the season. So how has that also been a helpful part of that helmets off strategy for you?
Yeah, it's, by, as you said, relinquishing our brand, really listening to the fan. I mean, we found out the real fan journey. There is no season. You are a football fan all year long, right? Football lives all year long. For the players, they may take, a time off to rest from the game, but they're still involved in their communities. They're still very much representing their teams in the league. So we've realized that there is no time off. The season is every single day. And we have to deliver that fan experience every single day. It changes, right? Because the experience is very different at kickoff, very different during the playoffs and then Super Bowl, and different during the draft, right? And then the anticipation of the summer as you're waiting for the season to come back. So there's just so many different human experiences that we haven't even tapped into, that I think is really exciting about the quote unquote season, right? It's the year-long season for us, for sure.
What do they always say? Best part of the vacation is often the anticipation and looking forward.
For sure. For sure.
Depending on how your team does, that may be the best part of the season. When those storylines though, and there are so many, and you talk about, I've heard you talk about shining points of light on all those different storylines, but that's a big task. That's sort of a Herculean effort to amass all of that content, all of those storylines to what you said, then curate it. How are you tackling that?
Yeah, it is a giant task, but a really, it's an amazing and challenging and fun task as well. Because if you think about the narratives around the sport, there are the narratives of the game and playing in the game and beating the opponent and all of the things that a close game can bring from a fan perspective. And then there are the stories of the impact that we're making to fans, to communities, both locally, at the national level. And so I think the balance between showing all those experiences and how and when is key, right? So we have to show the excitement and the hype, and get people to tune in, of course, our job as marketers, but we also have to impact the communities. And when I say that, I mean beyond the game, because we do transcend the game. The league has so much impact and such a breadth of impact, across communities, It's, it's a microcosm, if you will, of America. And so there's a responsibility there to do good, to have purpose that goes beyond the game, that those are the kinds of stories we also have to tell, right? And the balance of that tone is very important. And you'll see it come out in our strategy as we move forward.
For sure. We have seen it. I know that, leaning into social justice, social responsibility issues has been a big part of the strategy. If you want to call it that, I think it's just inherently, as you said, a part of the game and the players as well. Maybe let's take a minute and run one more video, your My Cause, My Cleats campaign, and then we can dive in a little more to this topic. So I'm going to try and do this myself, and Brand Innovators will help me out if I fail here, but I think I can get it running.
My fellow players, my brothers,
For each other, let's go!
my rivals, it is my responsibility
To my city, to my community, my family, and my predecessors.
Everybody is a role model. Everyone.
I love you, Aaron Donald, man. I look up to you a lot.
I appreciate you.
to use my reach.
I'm standing here today telling you hate does not drive out hate.
And bring awareness not to myself, but to help others. To see the world from someone else's shoes.
Hey! What's up, buddy? How you doing?
To all those battling, not just on game day.
I'm so enamored with the Trevor Project. There are young kids who kill themselves because they're afraid of what life will be like for them.
You are my role model, my inspiration.
Today, my goal is to shine the spotlight on you.
And when they mention our legacy, I sure hope they don't only mention football. I hope they talk about raising awareness for sickle cell.
But know that my job is never done. This is my pledge.
This is my pledge.
This is my pledge.
And this is my cause.
So I love that. We've had a range of emotions already on this call, right? The hype, the excitement of kind of the game with We Run as One, and then the warm fuzzy from My Cause, My Cleats. But it's been a big part of the strategy. So tell me about some of those initiatives and how they've been going.
Yeah, I'll speak, about My Cause, My Cleats specifically, and then I'll take a step back because there's so much that the league does. But, this is a program that started a few years ago, and it really is a spotlight on the players and their causes, the things that they care about, and the things they do in the community. I think we have now really started to tell those stories because I don't think people really were aware of the impact that the players have. And so, every year during the season, usually in November around the Thanksgiving timeframe, we really give attention to this initiative. The players design the cleats based on, the organization that they support. We give them the time, right, to bring that organization to light and elevate that organization. And then they wear those cleats on the field and, donate those cleats, for good. And that's just one of the programs. It's one of my favorites because it really showcases the humanity, I think, of the sport. But if you take a step back, we know people know the league does good in the community. I don't know that people are aware of just the breadth and scale. Again, because the league isn't just this entity. It is truly a family. Across America, we always talk about the power of 33, right? It's 32 teams in the league coming together with our fans, with organizations in the community to make a massive, massive impact. And so I really feel those stories of that impact need to be told. Not not self-servingly, right? Not to say, hey, look at what we're doing, but more to inspire people to say, hey, everyone can do something. And the more, you unite, it's like the 1,000 points of light, right? That was a long time ago. I think that was a phrase that each point of light in the community doing something has an impact. And when you put it all together, it's just massive. So I think that's the spirit that we want to, transcend the game and transcend the sport and really be a force for good, if you will.
Yeah. You touched on it can't be self-serving. And so I have to ask the question, because I think brands and marketers have maybe at times been criticized that some of these efforts are hollow gestures or fake altruism. How do you make sure you avoid that? How do you make sure, I won't use the buzzword authentic, how do you make sure it's genuine? When you do
it's such a difficult balance, but I love, it was mentioned in the last panel when they were talking about influencers, and especially, millennials and Gen Z. Sometimes the words and the message needs to come from the person, right? We can't advertise our brand. It really has to come from the individual or the individuals or groups that are making the impact, that are doing the action. That's why I love this last spot, if I can call it that, because it's not really a spot. It's a compilation of the work that these guys are doing, every day, and just to share it, right? I think that's what I would call what we do, is we're just curating the stories that are already out there and giving them a stage and giving them the light. And I think making sure their stories and their impact is really key and important.
Yeah.
We're a huge stage, right? So, and a huge platform. We've got to make sure we leverage the platform for good, to showcase these individuals.
Yeah, I think you and I both believe, both of us being in the sports realm, right, do believe that sports can be a unifying factor. Sports can be a unifying force for good. And so it's great to see the players taking that to heart, and you able to sort of shine a light on those stories for them. Switching gears a little bit, but I think the leaning into the players and those causes has also been a part of the strategy that's been going on for probably several years now, to really reach new audiences and to continue to build and broaden the fan base. And that's been key. I think that's one of the things Ad Age really recognize the league for, is the ability to do that. So talk to me about those new audiences and how it's going and what's working in terms of reaching them.
Yes. And, even before I say that, it's funny, we have different sections on reaching Gen Z and reaching the over 50. We have to do both. We have to do all, right? Our fan base is so broad that really having the strategy around who are avids today, who could be an audience tomorrow, and the difference between how the avid fans today consume the game and how the future fans of tomorrow will consume the game is really key, right? So as we think about our new audiences, and you think about, it is definitely Gen Z and below, I should say. So, I think it's alpha, whatever the new generation, right? We're talking young kids and young people, multicultural audiences, women. These are so important to our future, because they're the future base, right? And so really understanding what drives them, what drives these audiences, how to get them involved in the game is very key. So Gen Z is an example. Modernizing the message is absolutely critical. Social media is playing such a huge part of what we do today to grow those fan base of the future versus the past, right? In the past, you could have a tune-in message, on linear TV and you'd be fine because you'd be reaching a wide audience. Today, I don't even know if our Gen Z audience is watching TV. I don't think they are, right? And so how do we reach them in a very pithy and engaging way for them to engage in the game, right? Really getting involved in gaming. I mean, I think our friends at Activision talked about just the importance, right? That gaming has to this audience. How do we make sure they engage in football through what they know through gaming, right? Pop culture, I mean, music, fashion, entertainment, all of these things are so important to this audience that making sure that we have, our ear to the ground on culture is going to be key. And then I will say, when we think about the younger audiences, that I'm talking future, participation is key. It's very different to enjoy a sport, as a spectator. If you participated in it or somehow were involved in it, there's just so much more avidity and passion for the game. And you probably know this, Nicole. Being in TeamSnap, the trends around youth participation, particularly post-COVID, or we're not post-COVID, we're, as we're in these times, they're alarming. They've really declined. And so it's our responsibility to, inspire young people to be active, whether it's football or any other sport, right? And really to enjoy and have the passion. And so that's a big part of our future strategy, is ensuring that, we get back to youth participation and encouraging youth to be active and to love the game and play the game and be a part of it. And youth meaning everybody, right? And inclusive youth, multicultural women. Women are critically important. So, as we look to youth participation, we're looking at flag football and how we can make that bigger and make sure that it's a sport that, everyone can participate in and love and get engaged in.
Yeah. I will share a couple of stats because you did mention the youth and participation and the impact COVID had. We, TeamSnap, partnered with the Aspen Institute during the pandemic and did a study. And one of the really alarming things, to your point, that we found was parents were reporting that 1 in 2 kids' mental and emotional well-being suffered during the pandemic. Probably no surprise. But one of the biggest contributors for a large swath of kids in this country and families, 75% of families in this country have a participant in youth sports. I know you do. You have a daughter who's a pretty good soccer player, from what I understand. And there's 60 million kids involved in youth sports. And it all just came to a screeching halt in the pandemic. And 1 in 2 had their emotional well-being and their mental health impacted. So you're right. Thankfully, just like the NFL is back with a vengeance in live sports, youth sports have come back. They've bounced back, which is great to see. I have a good stat for your future hopes at the NFL, which is actually the fastest growing sport on TeamSnap in 2021 was in fact football. We saw 138% more football related events on the platform in 2021 than 2020. The other one I love, speaking of diverse audiences and the women too, and this one surprised me, a full 1/3 of football teams on TeamSnap are co-ed. A full 1/3 of football teams. Now, a lot of that, to your point about getting involved in flag football, is flag football. But yeah, I loved seeing that. Go girls that are out there playing football with the boys. So it's great. So we have talked a lot about how the NFL has been changing in an outward direction, your outward messaging. But the last time we chatted, you said, hey, look, it's not just outward either. This is really a change from the inside out. And so what are some of the internal priorities as you pursue this new strategy?
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, we know and recognize we have to reflect the fan base that we serve. And so very, very important. I think our diversity and engagement and inclusion initiatives are really, critically important to us. And so when you think about hiring, developing, promoting from within, and bringing in, talent that really represents that fan base is critical. And it's great to see such a focus, right? Because as I was talking, we need a diverse, workforce to be able to target both our avid fans and our existing fans today, and then all of those fans of the future. And the more diverse and inclusive we are, I think the more a reflection of the fan base and communities that we serve. So that is hugely important. Like, as I said, the programs that we have to engage with the communities, different organizations that are, in the local communities making an impact, that is huge as well. Because I think, like I said, it's not only the game, it's not only driving fan avidity and tune in and all of those great things, but it is ultimately, being that force for good that is driving impact in our communities, positive impact in our communities.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about 2021. One thing we touched on but haven't talked about is you were new to the NFL in 2021. And I'm curious, you have called yourself a classic CPG marketer in the past. So what learnings are you bringing from your background in CPG to the NFL, and what's different, and have there been any big surprises for you?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I am definitely a classic CPG marketer. Started my career at P&G. I was at PepsiCo, 18 years. So I'm very much ingrained in, the world of CPG. And when you're a CPG marketer, our job is to understand and really learn the human experience, right? And at the end of the day, we need to know what motivates people to choose a product, right? We need to drive awareness of that product, ultimately conversion, right? And purchase, and ultimately a loyalty. And that was my world. And coming to the NFL, it definitely still is about the human experience. You have to be a student of that and really dig deep and be curious about what motivates the human spirit, right? To be able to connect and engage across a very broad spectrum of audiences. So that remains, but gosh, it's so different, right? Because there's not a tangible, I'm not selling Doritos here, right? There's not a tangible bag or product that you can touch and feel. It's an experience, right? In and of itself. It's the sport, it's the spectating of the sport, playing of the sport, everything that the sport represents. And so it really is looking at that fan journey, right? And understanding where we can engage, and the value proposition so different. It's huge, and it's broad, and multi-layered, and it continues to change because, we were talking, one example is just, the metaverse and how the metaverse is changing. And hey, what is the NFL experience in that metaverse, right? We're talking about these things. If you've recently attended a game, you now have the NFT that commemorates that game, right? And so, and there's so much more where that's coming from. So I love the fact that something intangible like the NFL has just so many directions in which you can take the value proposition and in which you can engage with fans, that it's super exciting. So I have a lot to learn, but luckily CPG is a good foundation. It's just, I have a lot more to internalize as I go, for sure.
Well, you teed me up perfectly because, and a little plug, we're going to do a couple more questions. And then for the audience, we're going to take some Q&A. I already see some questions popping in there, but now's your chance in the audience to enter those questions in the Q&A box. But so 2021, an incredible year, kind of a tough act to follow. So what's on tap for 2022?
I will tell you, you don't fix something that's not broken, right? So we are going to double down on our strategy, right? It is about, continuing what people love about the game, the hype and the excitement and the joy, but it is also about humanizing, the brand, modernizing the brand. It is about keeping and engaging our avid fans, but also bringing in all these new audiences in new ways. So it's a two-pronged approach. I think you're going to continue to see the messaging around We Run as One, which is, basically all of our sport analogies and the beauty of the sport in We Run as One. But then the message of It Takes All of Us, which is more of our community message and how the league comes together to impact the community. Those two things working together, you'll continue to see in 2022. And then, hopefully more exciting matches, more exciting games, and even more exciting season, which, it's going to be hard to beat 21 because it was amazing. But I have no doubt we'll continue to bring that excitement for sure.
That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to go to Q&A in a minute. Before I do, though, I think the audience would kill me if I didn't talk a little bit about Super Bowl 56, which is right around the corner. The first burning question in everyone's mind is, with everything, unfortunately, that is still going on with COVID, is the Super Bowl happening?
Yes, as of today, it is happening. It is happening. We are going to do everything in our power as a league to follow all the protocols, be as safe as can be. But as of today, it absolutely will happen. It's going to be an incredible culmination to what's been probably the most exciting season that we've had in a very long time. And I think it's going to be great. So yes, as of today, we are a go for sure.
Good. And I know you cannot predict who's going to win, but what can you tell us about what to expect at the Super Bowl or what to be excited about?
Well, I think, like I said, great celebration and culmination of a great season. I think you can see, and I don't know, well, you're from LA, so maybe you've been to SoFi, but, what an incredible stadium and magnificent just display of technology and innovation. So I think you're going to see technology and innovation in full display. I think the halftime show is going to be incredible. If I can give a shout out to my old Pepsi friends, to bring together that level of LA talent in one stage. I cannot wait. I think it's going to be incredible. And our first ever Spanish language broadcast on Telemundo, which is going to air as well at the same time. So lots of fun surprises, lots of hype, hoping for an incredible matchup and a great game. And of course, all the wonderful advertisements and spots that, we all love every year. So can't wait to see them all.
I sit here in LA, and when I saw the halftime show, another plug for Pepsi, by the way, when I saw the halftime show lineup announced, I immediately texted one of my friends at Pepsi and was just like, oh my gosh, mind blown. So yes, that'll be fun too. We've got a bunch of questions in Q&A, so I'll hopefully have time here. I'm mindful of time. We got about 5 minutes. I'll take a couple of them. One, and we did talk about this last time we chatted, but didn't touch on it yet today. So I think it's a good one. When we think about the future in 2022, talk to us a little about the new international initiative. And the question here is, what will success look like for the new international team marketing platform?
Yes, thank you so much for the question. I completely forgot. And it's something I'm so excited about. Yes, we are definitely expanding the brand and the game internationally. If you saw a couple months ago, we announced that 18 teams now will have the rights to market in Mexico, which is phenomenal. And I think, Mexico has one of the largest and avid fan bases of the NFL. So I think expanding, the league and expanding the teams is going to be great. definitely, you can see our expansion in Europe when it comes to, the games in England and in Germany. So, and more to come on that expansion. But I think, we continue to grow in that regard and build the brand to be a global brand and have global presence. So very, very exciting. We know our fans are everywhere, right? Not just in the US. So while they get to watch the games, they will now get to experience the games live, which is, exciting in and of itself for sure.
It's funny, that reminded me a little of one of the challenges, of course, is educating the rest of the world about the game and football, which isn't played, or didn't used to be, I should say. I think that's changing. It used to be played as much in other places. One of the things we didn't touch on when we talked about that youth audience is also educating younger potential rising fans and helping them enjoy the game. Quickly tell us a little bit about the partnership you did with Nickelodeon, which was a lot of fun for that young audience.
Oh yes, we do have a partnership with Nickelodeon. There's actually a game, a broadcast that will air as part of the playoffs this weekend. But yeah, it's an opportunity to, teach the game to kids, make the game fun. There's all sorts of activities and slime and, bringing in, but it is a partnership with Nickelodeon. Again, the aim is to educate and also to inspire kids to play more, to be active and to get out there. So the more, we have partnerships like that really understand a particular audience that, we can go after and make the game much more accessible to that audience, speaking that audience's language and, doing the things that they enjoy. I think the better, right, for us to engage and do things a different way. So great partnership with Nickelodeon. I encourage you guys to watch it this weekend.
I was going to say, anyone who has young kids in the audience, check it out. So last question, I think it's a good one, and then we're at time. A question about what's going on in the sports betting world, and that sports betting is being legalized, and what role is the NFL at all playing in that? And how are you getting involved in that and the advertising around sports betting too?
Yeah, I think, it's exciting to see. For us, it's definitely making sure that, the responsibility is there, that we educate the fan around responsible gambling. So you'll see, you'll see the messaging, you'll see encouraging, fans to just, do so in a responsible way. And those messages have started, and they will continue as the initiative grows.